do another favorite strumming groove video in my series. The first two were John Lennon and Neil Young, and I'm going to do a little bit more of a modern artist, not too much more contemporary anymore, but Jack Johnson. He has a propensity to do this groove on a lot of his songs, particularly in his hits. And it's a really fun groove. It's not an easy groove to get down. But it's a really fun groove. It's kind of light and airy, and it just kind of has, he grew up in Hawaii, so it kind of has that island feel in some way. It's almost like a ukulele groove brought to the guitar. So let's dig in. I'm going to pull it in closer here so you can see what I'm doing, and let's go. Okay, so we're going to break this down into bite-sized chunks because it's a pretty difficult strumming groove. It has a lot of elements to it. It has syncopation, it has a snare hit, it has accents, it has muted strings, it has strummed chords. One of the things you'll notice about a lot of Jack Johnson's songs is that he tends to use bar chords. And there's a reason why he tends to use bar chords. It's because they're easier to mute than open chords. If I were to play an open chord, I'm going to have to take the chord off and deaden the strings to get this sound. But if I'm doing a bar chord, I can just lift the strings off of the fret, keep my fingers on the strings and in position. See that? When I lift, now it's dead, but my fingers are still over the bar chord. So if you don't have bar chords down yet, you might want to save this, bookmark this lesson, and come back to it when you do, okay? The song Bubble Toes is basically G and then C to D. And he does a bar of G and then 2 beats basically of C and 2 beats of D. So that is... He kind of slides into it. So sometimes you'll do the same chord through an entire bar, and sometimes you'll change about halfway through the bar, and I'll explain that in a little bit. So the first thing you want to know is that basically you're going to keep your arm moving. This is a 16th note pattern, which means we're going to play 16 strums per beat. I'm going to deaden the strings and just play 16 16th notes dead, muted, like this. That was 16. And the way you would count 16th notes would typically be 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and, okay? And that's a way to break up the 16th notes. Now you'll notice that I'm alternating down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Now, no matter what's going on, you're going to want to keep your arm moving like that. Your arm is the metronome. And so metronomes don't stop. So your arm should not stop no matter what's going on in the rhythm. And that's true of most strumming grooves. Okay, so we're gonna use this G bar chord here as kind of our base of operations, as it were, okay? And the pattern basically is 4 strums of the bar of the chord and then a snare hit. And then 2 dead strokes, up, down, and then up, see, up, up. So we're going to do 2 ups in a row, and then we're going to do down, up, and then another snare hit, and then dead. So you can see there's a lot going on, okay? I'm going to play it for you. I'm going to play it for you fast at tempo so you can hear it. Then I'm going to slow it down, and then we're going to break it into bite-sized chunks, okay? Here it goes. Slower. And there's some variations in there. You don't have to play it exactly the same way every time, but you really do want to try to get the snare hits on 2 and 4. And you're going to want to try to get those upstrokes, those accented upstrokes on the 2E and of 2 and the 3E of 3, okay? So let's start out though by trying to do just the chord and the snare hit. So we're going to do down, up, snare, like that. And I'm doing 2 things when I do the snare hit. One thing I'm doing is I'm muting the strings on the right hand with the side of my hand right here. Okay, so actually the side of my hand is, the side of my palm is actually landing on the strings before I strum. So I could do this, you can even practice it with open strings. You hear the strings ringing out on other instruments. You can even practice that. It's a little bit easier though when you do a bar chord, because you can also lift up the strings off of the frets. Not the fingers off the strings, just the, like that. Okay, so you do this. So I'm doing both of those things to get that snare hit. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4. Okay, the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to strum basically muted strings up until the upstroke, the last upstroke of the beat 2, which is the 2E and the of 2. So it'd be like this. We're gonna practice this in a second. So, and we're just gonna stop there. So, sorry. Now, one thing you can practice doing too is keep your arm moving after you do the upstroke, okay? To try to keep that metronome concept going. So check this out. 2, 4. Okay, so let me slow this down. This is what's going on. So you can hear 4 strums, snare, 2 dead strums, because I've still got my fingers, the strings off of the frets there. So I go up, down, and then squeeze up. So it ends up being an up strum, okay? And this is the hard one to get. Okay. Okay, now we're going to try to do the 2 up strums in a row. And so what I'm going to do on the up strum, I'm going to go up and miss the strings coming down and go up 2 times in a row. You can practice that if you want. Just practice strumming 2 ups in a row. Okay? But here's what it's going to sound like in the context. And again, this is just, now we're getting about 50% of the groove down. Notice I'm trying to keep my arm moving. I know the temptation is to stop it, but you really do want to keep it moving. Ultimately, you're going to have to keep the groove going. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to try to get to that second snare hit, which is on beat 4. So we have... Okay, and you'll notice, for the most part, I strummed everything after that second upstroke. I strummed down, up, and then did the snare hit again. But sometimes he'll do just hit only the upstrokes. So it might sound like this. See that? Down, up, down. Okay, but we can fill it in too. I think sometimes, a lot of times he does fill that in. So we can go like this. And so you can hear that, it fills it in a little bit more. And you can even hit a downstroke between the 2 upstrokes, but the idea is to try to accent those 2 upstrokes so they kind of jump out. It's like bump, 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 dump, dump is what's going on, okay? So we're almost there. So after we do that last snare hit, okay, we're gonna finish out the beat. So we're gonna go 4, E, and with muted strings, with dead strings, okay? So you're gonna wanna keep that bar chord lifted off there. Okay, if we're doing an E chord, doing open strings, you'll notice I have to basically ungrip the chord and grab the strings and mute them so that they make no sound. That's the beauty of the bar chord, is that I don't have to do that. Just by lifting the strings off of the frets, I'm muting the strings. And again, you can practice doing this. In fact, if you want to practice doing this rhythm thing with all muted, and just try to accent those ups. 1, up, up, down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up, up. Okay, so that's the whole groove. I'm gonna slow it down, and I'm gonna show you some chords that are typical for some of his songs. For the song Flake, it starts on F and goes to C, D minor, A, B flat, C, F, and C again. So it's basically a 1, 5, 6, major 3, 4, 5, 1, 5 progression. Very fun, happy pop progression. Okay, here we go. Okay, up the tempo. Okay, for upside down, that one does start with an E chord, so you are going to... goes back to F sharp minor, and that's basically the verse. The chorus, though, now you'll notice I'm playing 2 chords per bar. So where I'm making the change from the E to the F sharp minor is on that first up strum. So. And then when I'm going from the A to the B, I'm also making the change on that first up strum and going to B. Now on Bubble Toes, he goes, it's just basically G, C, and D. But I notice sometimes, well, he'll slide. Lay down that picky on the C and the D chord. And that same thing, the push is happening on upside down. The change is happening on the push. So that's the groove that Jack Johnson really likes to use on a lot of his songs, particularly his hits. And if you have any other suggestions, it's really hard to find a tendency among guitar players, but if you find someone, please feel free to leave it in the comments, because I would love to do more of these videos. And because I feel like it's a really good way to learn some new strumming grooves and add them to your repertoire. So anyway, don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell if you want, and I'm still doing a lot of live streams right now, so you might want to be aware of that, and sometimes I'll take questions there if you have more questions to ask. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, and let's go to Hawaii. Come on, let's do it.